During a family barbecue, she joked loud enough for everyone. "If we ever get married, he'll be lucky if I don't cheat." I stayed quiet, but when my uncle pulled me aside later that night, his advice changed everything. My family has a tradition. Every year on the last weekend of summer, we have a huge barbecue at my uncle's house. It is an all-day affair with 3 generations of my family, tons of food, and a lot of loud, happy noise. It is a day about roots, about connection. It is the last place on earth you would expect your life to fall apart. But that is exactly what happened to me on Saturday. My name is Tom. I am a project manager for a commercial construction company. I build things, big things, skyscrapers, hospitals, university buildings. My job is to take 1,000,000 chaotic pieces and turn them into a single, solid, functional structure. I bring order to chaos. I thought my relationship with my girlfriend Sarah was the most solid structure in my life. We had been together for 2 years, living in a house I owned for the last one. We were partners. We had a plan. Marriage, kids, the whole deal. It was a blueprint I trusted. Sarah is beautiful, funny, and the life of every party. She has a wild streak that I found exciting. It balanced out my more serious, structured nature, or so I told myself. My family adored her. They loved her energy, her stories. She fit in seamlessly. Saturday was a perfect late summer day. The barbecue was in full swing. My cousins were throwing a football, the kids were running through sprinklers, and the adults were gathered on the deck, laughing and drinking beer. I was at the grill flipping burgers, feeling completely content. Sarah was holding court with a group of my female cousins and my aunt. They were talking about a recent celebrity wedding, and the conversation drifted to our own plans. I could hear them from the grill, and I was only half listening. Then I heard my cousin ask, "So, when are you two going to make it official?" And that is when Sarah dropped the bomb. She laughed, a loud, theatrical laugh that made a few heads turn. "Oh God, I don't know," she said, her voice carrying across the deck. "If we ever get married, he will be lucky if I don't cheat." The laughter on the deck died. The conversation stopped. In the sudden silence, the only sounds were the sizzle of the burgers on the grill and the distant shouts of the kids. I did not turn around. I just stood there, spatula in my hand, staring at the grill marks on a piece of meat. She tried to play it off as a joke. "I am kidding," she said, laughing again, but this time it sounded forced and brittle. Mostly. A few people gave a weak, uncomfortable laugh. The conversation slowly, awkwardly started up again, but the mood was broken. The perfect summer day now had a dark cloud hanging over it. I stayed quiet. I did not look at her. I did not say a word. I just kept grilling, my movements calm and methodical. Inside, a storm was raging. It was not just the disrespect, it was the public nature of it. She had not just insulted me, she had announced to my entire family that our relationship was a joke to her. That my commitment was something she considered optional. I served the food. I sat with my family. I talked and laughed and pretended that I had not just heard the woman I loved detonate the foundation of our life. Sarah kept shooting me little looks, trying to gauge my reaction. I gave her nothing. I was a blank wall. Later that night, as the party was winding down and people were starting to leave, my Uncle Frank pulled me aside. Frank is my dad's older brother. He is a retired cop, a man who has seen the best and worst of people. He does not say much, but when he does, you listen. He led me over to the edge of the yard, away from the tiki torches and the lingering guests. He looked me in the eye, and his face was serious. "I heard what she said," he said, his voice a low rumble. I just nodded. "You are a good kid, Tom," he continued. "You are solid. You build things to last. That woman, she is not built the same way. She is all flash, no foundation." He paused, looking back at the party where Sarah was now laughing with my aunt, as if nothing had happened. "You are angry," he said. It was not a question. You want to go home and have it out with her. You want to yell and scream and maybe even break up with her tonight. He was right. That was exactly what I wanted to do. "Don't," he said, his voice firm. "That is what she expects. That is the game she wants to play. A big, dramatic fight where she can cry and apologize and call it a stupid joke, and you will forgive her because you love her. And then she will know she can get away with it. She will know she can disrespect you. And the only consequence is a little bit of drama." He put a hand on my shoulder. "A woman who jokes about cheating is not joking. She is sending up a trial balloon. She is testing your boundaries. She is telling you exactly who she is. The biggest mistake you can make is not believing her." "So what do I do?" I asked. His advice was simple, but it changed everything. "You do nothing," he said. "You go home. You act like everything is fine. You let her think she got away with it. You let her get comfortable. And while she is comfortable, you get smart. You find out if that trial balloon she sent up is the only one, or if there is a whole fleet of them you don't know about. Don't get emotional, get information. People like that, they don't fear anger, they fear exposure. You want to end it? Fine. But don't end it on her terms, end it on yours. Make sure when you walk away, she understands exactly what she lost and why." I looked at my uncle and I understood. He was not telling me to be a wimp, he was telling me to be a strategist. He was giving me a new blueprint. The old one, the one with marriage and kids, was gone. The new one was for a demolition. A quiet, careful, and complete demolition. I went back to the party, smiled at my girlfriend, and started planning. Update 1. It has been 1 week since the barbecue. 1 week of playing the part of the forgiving boyfriend, and 1 week of methodical, silent investigation. My Uncle Frank's advice has been my guiding principle. Don't get emotional. Get information. The night of the barbecue, on the drive home, Sarah finally tried to address what had happened. "Are you mad at me?" she asked, her voice small and tentative. I glanced over at her. "About what?" "You know, the joke I made. It was stupid. I was just trying to be funny. My sense of humor is a little dark sometimes." I just shrugged. "It is fine," I said. "I get it." The relief that washed over her face was palpable. She thought she was off the hook. She thought my silence at the party was just me being moody. She had no idea it was me recalculating the entire project. For the next few days, she was the perfect girlfriend. She was affectionate, attentive, and did not make any more jokes. She thought she had pushed a boundary and that I had accepted it. She was comfortable. While she was comfortable, I was working. My first step was to understand the scope of the problem. Was her comment a one-time stupid mistake, or was it a symptom of a deeper issue? I started with her phone. We had an open policy with our devices. We knew each other's passcodes. It was a foundation of trust that she, it turned out, did not deserve. I waited until she was asleep and went through it. I was not looking for a smoking gun. I was looking for patterns. I did not find any explicit texts from other men. She was too smart for that. But I found something more telling. I found a pattern of deletion. Her text threads with certain male friends were suspiciously clean. There were gaps in the conversations, missing days. Her call logs showed calls to these same numbers, but the corresponding texts were gone. A person with nothing to hide does not meticulously scrub their conversations. The most interesting find was a group chat with her 3 best friends. The chat was called the Escape Committee. I scrolled back for months. It was a running commentary on their lives, their relationships, and their plans for the future. And it was a goldmine. They talked about me. A lot. They referred to me as the Warden or Mr. Stable. They talked about my boring life, my predictable schedule. Sarah's posts were the most damning. She complained about feeling trapped. She talked about wanting more excitement. And then I found the conversation from the day before the barbecue. One of her friends had asked if she was really ready to settle down with me. Sarah's reply, "God, no. But the setup is too good to leave right now. He is a great safety net while I figure out what I really want. And what I really want is not a guy who spends his weekends installing a new sprinkler system." Another friend replied, "You've got to be careful. He is not dumb. What if he figures it out?" Sarah's response made my blood run cold. "He will not. He trusts me completely. I could probably cheat on him, and as long as I smiled and told him I loved him, he would believe me. He is just lucky I have not bothered yet." There it was. The joke from the barbecue was not a joke at all. It was a slightly rephrased version of her true feelings. It was a test, just like my uncle said. She was testing the waters, seeing how much disrespect I would tolerate. I took screenshots of the entire conversation. I saved them to a secure cloud account. That was my information. Now I needed a plan for exposure. The opportunity presented itself 2 days later. Sarah came home excited. Her best friend, the one who had asked if she was ready to settle down, was getting engaged. Her fiancé had proposed on a trip to Paris. They were going to have a big fancy engagement party in 3 weeks at a downtown hotel. "It is going to be amazing," Sarah said, her eyes shining. "Everyone is going to be there. We have to get you a new suit." A party. A big fancy party, full of her friends and the people she wanted to impress. The stage was perfect. I spent the next week preparing. I continued to play the part of the perfect boyfriend. I helped her pick out a dress for the party. I booked an appointment to get a new suit. I listened to her talk endlessly about the engagement, about Paris, about the size of her friend's diamond. Meanwhile, I was making my own preparations. I contacted the event planner for the party, a woman my company had worked with on a few corporate events. I told her I wanted to do a special surprise for the newly engaged couple. I wanted to put together a slideshow of pictures of them to be played on the big screens at the party. She thought it was a wonderful idea and gave me the technical specifications for the video file. I spent hours putting the video together. It started innocently enough. Pictures of the happy couple, pictures of them with their friends, including Sarah. I even included a few pictures of me and Sarah, smiling, looking like the perfect couple. But the last 30 seconds of the video were different. The last 30 seconds were the screenshots from her group chat. I set the screenshots to scroll slowly across the screen, her own words appearing in huge, undeniable letters set to a soft, romantic piano score. "He is a great safety net while I figure out what I really want. He trusts me completely. He is just lucky I have not bothered to cheat yet." The video was ready. The stage was set. All I had to do was wait for the performance. Sarah thought this party was about her friend. She had no idea it was about to be her grand finale. Update 2. The night of the engagement party felt like the calm before a hurricane. I was not nervous. I was focused. I had a job to do, a structure to demolish, and I had the right tools for the job. We arrived at the hotel ballroom, and it was exactly as Sarah had described. It was a sea of expensive dresses, tailored suits, and the quiet hum of people who believed their own hype. Sarah was in her element, flitting from group to group, laughing and air-kissing, dragging me along like a well-behaved accessory. I just smiled, nodded, and played my part. I found the event planner and gave her the thumb drive with the video file. "It is all set," I told her. "Just play it right after the father of the bride's toast." She gave me a thumbs up and disappeared into the control booth. An hour into the party, the toasts began. The father of the bride gave a tearful speech. The groom's best man told a few embarrassing stories. Then the groom himself got up and gave a heartfelt tribute to his new fiancée, Sarah's best friend. As he finished, the lights in the ballroom dimmed. The event planner's voice came over the sound system. "And now, a special surprise from a dear friend, a look back at some happy memories." The romantic piano music started. The slideshow began. I was standing next to Sarah, near the back of the room. She squeezed my arm, a genuine smile on her face. "This is so sweet," she whispered. The first few minutes were perfect. Pictures of the happy couple flashed on the 3 large screens around the room. The guests were all smiling, some dabbing their eyes. Then, the music swelled, and the final 30 seconds began. The first screenshot appeared. Sarah's words, "He is a great safety net while I figure out what I really want." I felt her hand on my arm go rigid. Her smile froze. "What is this?" She hissed, her voice a strangled whisper. The next screenshot appeared. "He trusts me completely." A low murmur started to spread through the room as people read the words on the screen. People were turning, looking from the screens to Sarah, their expressions shifting from happy celebration to confused shock. And then the final screenshot, the one from the barbecue, filled the screens. "He is just lucky I have not bothered to cheat yet." The room went completely silent. The only sound was the soft piano music, which now sounded like a funeral dirge. The video ended. The screens went black. The lights came up, and in that brightly lit, silent ballroom, every single eye was on Sarah. Her face was a mask of pure, horrified disbelief. Her friends, the members of her escape committee, were staring at her, their own faces pale with shock and dawning dread. They had been exposed along with her. I turned to look at her. The beautiful, confident woman I had been with for 2 years was gone. In her place was a stranger, a person stripped bare of all her lies, standing in the wreckage of her own creation. I leaned in close, my voice a quiet whisper that only she could hear. The joke is not funny anymore, is it? I did not wait for an answer. I took a step back, turned, and walked out of the ballroom. I did not run. I did not look back. I just walked, my steps steady and even, leaving the chaos behind me. As the ballroom doors swung shut, I heard the first sounds of the aftermath. A woman crying, a man shouting. The storm had finally broken. My Uncle Frank was waiting for me in the hotel lobby. I had called him earlier that day and told him what I was going to do. He just nodded and said, "I will be there." He stood up as I approached. He did not ask how it went, he just looked at me, a small, proud smile on his face. "Let's go get a beer," he said. "You look like a man who just got out of prison." And he was right, I was free. Final update. It has been 6 months since the engagement party. The demolition is complete, and I have spent the time since then clearing the site and starting to build something new. The final chapter of this story is not about drama or revenge. It is about consequences and the quiet, satisfying process of moving on. The fallout from that night was immediate and absolute. The engagement party ended in chaos. Sarah had a complete meltdown. Her friends, the escape committee, were caught in the blast. The bride-to-be, her supposed best friend, was furious that her perfect night had been ruined. Their friendship, I am told, is over. Sarah's social life was obliterated. The story of what happened spread like a virus through her circle. The evidence was undeniable. She was not the victim, she was the architect of her own humiliation. The friends she had tried so hard to impress saw her for what she was, a user, a person who saw relationships as a temporary convenience. They abandoned her. She tried to launch a counter-offensive, of course. She told people I was a psycho, that I had doctored the screenshots, that I was a controlling monster. But it did not work. My reputation was solid. And her own words, displayed for all to see, were too damning. She lost her job. It turned out the fiancé of her friend, the groom from the party, was a partner at the marketing firm where she worked. He did not fire her directly. He did not have to. The work environment became so toxic, so full of whispers and sideways glances, that she was forced to resign. She had to move out of my house, of course. I had already packed her things. She sent her father to come and get them. I was not there. I left the boxes in the garage. Her father, a man I had always respected, did not even look me in the eye when I saw him briefly a few weeks later. The shame was too great. She is now living in a small apartment across town. She is working a low-level job, trying to rebuild her life. She has no friends, no partner, and a reputation that will follow her for a long time. I received one communication from her about 2 months ago. It was a long, rambling email. It was a mix of apologies, accusations, and self-pity. She wrote that the barbecue comment was the biggest mistake of her life. She wrote that she did not really mean it, that she was just trying to sound cool and detached. She wrote that my uncle was a cruel old man for giving me the advice he did. That was the line that made me realize she still did not get it. She was still blaming someone else. She was blaming her joke. She was blaming my uncle. She was blaming everyone but the person who was actually responsible, herself. I deleted the email without replying. My life is good. It is quiet. It is stable. I have been spending a lot of time with my family, with the people who form my real foundation. My Uncle Frank and I go fishing every other weekend. We do not talk about what happened, but we do not need to. He just claps me on the back and says, "You did good, kid." The revenge was not the slideshow. It was not the public humiliation. The real revenge was in the simple act of believing her. She told me exactly who she was with that joke at the barbecue. My uncle's advice was not about revenge, it was about self-respect. He told me to believe her, and I did. I took her at her word, and I acted accordingly. She thought she was playing a game where she could have my stability while keeping her options open. She did not realize that for me, commitment is not a game. It is a structure. It is a promise. And when you prove that your promises are worthless, I do not get angry. I just tear down the building and start over on solid ground. And the new foundation I am building is stronger than ever. Her male best friend mocked me at dinner. She could do way better than you. I shut him down in front of everyone. she snapped. "Apologize or we're over." I smiled. I didn't say a word, but when she came home weeks later, she finally learned what done really means. For 3 years, my life with Anna was good. Great, even. I'm a lawyer, so my day job is basically wading through the worst parts of human nature. Coming home to her was like taking a breath of fresh air. She was a paralegal, smart as a whip, and had this fire in her to go to law school and make a name for herself. I loved that about her. We were a team, building a life in a house I'd spent years restoring. It felt solid, real. I wasn't just paying bills for a girlfriend, I was investing in the woman I was going to marry. But there was always this static, a low-level hum of something not being quite right. And that static had a name: Leo. Leo was her best friend from college. He was a graphic designer, one of those guys who calls himself an artist and acts like working a 9-to-5 is a fate worse than death. Meanwhile, he was designing menus for taco joints to barely make his rent. To hear Anna tell it, he was her ride or die, her platonic soulmate, the guy who protected her. To me, he was a leech with a superiority complex, and he had made it his life's mission to undermine our relationship. He was a pro at it, I'll give him that. He never did anything you could call him out on directly. It was all subtle digs, little poison darts disguised as compliments. Her ex-boyfriend, Alex, a musician who'd broken her heart, was his favorite topic. If I took Anna on a nice vacation to Mexico, Leo would find a way to bring up some spontaneous camping trip he and Anna took once. "Remember that, Anna?" he'd say, all wistful. "You can't plan moments like that. You just have to be with someone who gets your free spirit." The message was always the same. I was the boring, safe choice, and he was the gatekeeper to the exciting life she was leaving behind. And Anna? She ate it up with a spoon. She was completely snowed by his protective friend act. Anytime I'd even hint that he was out of line, she'd get defensive. "He's just being Leo. He was there for me when Alex shattered my heart. He's just worried about me. He's family, Jack. I'm a patient guy. You have to be in my line of work. You don't jump on the first piece of evidence. You wait. You let the other side talk. You let them build their own case against themselves, and you wait for them to hand you the rope." I waited for Leo to hand me the rope. The moment came a month ago. I just won the biggest case of my career. 6 months of my life, gone. Countless sleepless nights, weekends spent buried in paperwork. But we won, and it was a huge deal for my firm and for me. To celebrate, I threw a dinner party. My closest friends, the ones who'd barely seen me for half a year, were all there. And because I was still trying to be the good guy, I told Anna to invite her friends, which of course meant Leo was coming. The night was perfect. The house was full of good people, the expensive wine I'd been saving was open, and I was actually relaxing for the first time in what felt like forever. Leo naturally was soaking up the free booze and acting like he co-owned the place. He got a few drinks in him and decided it was time for a performance. He started on some long, boring tangent about an art exhibit, which was really just an excuse to talk about the difference between creators and suits. "It's just a different way of seeing the world," he said, looking right at me. "Some of us are driven by passion, by art. Others are more practical." He took a long, slow sip of my wine. My friends knew his game and were shooting him looks that could curdle milk. I just gave him a tight smile and refused to engage. But he wasn't done. He turned to Anna, putting on his best concerned friend face. "I just hope you're happy, Anna," he said, his voice dripping with fake sincerity. "I mean, Jack's a great guy. He's stable, he's a provider, he's reliable." He said reliable like it was a dirty word. Then he paused, looked me dead in the eye, and let a smug little smirk spread across his face. "But you've got to admit, she could do way better than you." And there it was. The rope. The whole table went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. My friends looked like they were about to physically restrain themselves from launching across the table. Anna just stared at her plate, blushing. She wasn't mad at him. She was just embarrassed that he'd made a scene. That was the moment the focus snapped into place for me. The picture became crystal clear. The patient lawyer was gone. The man who had just been fundamentally disrespected in his own home, in front of his friends, by a man who was living off his generosity, was now running the show. I put my fork and knife down, very slowly. I folded my hands on the table and fixed my eyes on Leo. The friendly host had left the building. The prosecutor had just taken his place at the podium. "That's a bold claim, Leo," I said. My voice was dangerously quiet. "I'm interested in your reasoning. In your expert opinion, what does a better man for Anna look like? Please, be specific. Lay out the criteria for me." Leo was completely thrown. He was geared up for a shouting match. He wasn't prepared for a calm, methodical cross-examination. Well, he stammered. "Someone more on her level. A creative, someone who gets her." "I see," I said, nodding. "So the main qualification is being a creative. An interesting theory. And I assume you see yourself as fitting this description?" "I think I understand her better than anyone," he said, puffing out his chest. "Perfect," I said. "So you're the gold standard. Let's examine that. Let's add a few other factors to this analysis. Let's talk about something more concrete than vibes. Let's talk about investment. As everyone here knows, Anna is in her second year of law school. It's a top-tier program with a price tag to match. I'm paying for that, the whole thing. It's a major investment of capital, of course, but it's also an investment of faith. Faith in her and faith in our future together. So my question for you, Leo, as the self-appointed gold standard of what's better for Anna, is this. What have you invested in her future lately, other than your consistently negative opinions of me?" Leo's face went white. Anna shot me a panicked look. "Jack, don't do this," she whispered. I held up a hand to silence her. My eyes still locked on Leo. "I'm not done. Let's talk about the car she drives. It's safe, it's reliable, it gets her to school and back. I bought it for her. Now, you have a car too, right, Leo? A cool little convertible that seems to break down a lot. In fact, Anna has had to loan you money for repairs at least 3 times in the last 6 months, hasn't she? Money that she took from the household account that, by the way, I'm the only one who deposits into. So in a very real sense, Leo, I'm not just investing in Anna's future, I'm also paying to keep your little hipster mobile on the road. You're welcome." One of my buddies at the table actually snorted with laughter before covering it with a cough. Leo looked like he'd been slapped. "And finally," I said, leaning forward, my voice dropping, "let's talk about this house. The roof over her head. I own it, I pay the mortgage, I fix the things that break. You, on the other hand, have been late on your rent so many times that Anna has had to cover for you, again, with money that I earned. So let me just summarize your argument for the jury, for the table. Your position is that a man who provides a stable home, a reliable car, and a fully funded, top-tier education is an inferior choice for Anna, and that a better man, by your definition, is one who is a financial black hole, who drains her resources, and who repays her kindness by systematically trying to sabotage her relationship out of what can only be a pathetic, transparent, and deeply creepy obsession. Is that a fair and accurate summary of your position, Leo?" I leaned back. The closing argument was done. The room was utterly silent. Leo was a broken man, a witness who had just been torn to shreds on the stand. He just sat there, humiliated, unable to speak. I looked at my friends who were all staring at Leo with open contempt. Then I looked at Anna. Her face was a storm of emotions. But the one that won, the one that broke through the shock and embarrassment, wasn't relief. It wasn't gratitude. It was pure, white-hot fury. She shot up from her chair, the legs scraping violently against the floor. Her whole body was shaking. "I cannot believe you just did that," she hissed. "You humiliated him, in front of everyone." "He humiliated himself, Anna," I said, my voice tired now. "I just presented the evidence." "Apologize to him," she demanded, her eyes blazing with a fire that was aimed entirely at me. "Right now, apologize to my best friend for what you just did. Apologize, or we are over." And there it was, the ultimatum, the final piece of evidence. She was standing next to the wreckage of a man who had just been exposed as a manipulative parasite, and she was defending him. She was choosing him. The love I had for her didn't just die, it was executed. I looked at her, and for the first time, I saw her with perfect clarity. I didn't get mad. I didn't yell. I just smiled. A small, sad, and completely final smile. I didn't say another word. I stood up, picked up my wine glass, and walked into the kitchen, leaving her standing alone in the silent dining room. The case was closed. The verdict was in. The aftermath of that dinner was swift. Anna and Leo left together in a cloud of drama. She moved in with him that night, a decision I'm sure was made in the heat of her rage and his humiliation. In her mind, she'd thrown down the gauntlet. She was waiting for me to come crawling back, to apologize, to do whatever it took to fix what I had broken. She had no idea that I had simply accepted her terms. For 2 weeks, I went completely dark. I didn't answer her calls. I didn't reply to the barrage of angry, then confused, then pleading texts. I ignored the mutual friends she sent to plead her case. I was a ghost. Instead of chasing her, I got to work. My house, which had felt like our home, now felt like a crime scene. I spent a weekend methodically packing every single thing she owned into boxes. It wasn't an angry act, it was a cleansing. I was an executor, settling the estate of a dead relationship. When I was done, I stacked the boxes in the spare room, changed all the locks, and reset the security codes. Then I made 2 phone calls. They were not pleasant, but they were necessary. They were the logical consequences of the verdict she had delivered at that dinner party. The first call was to the dean of admissions at her law school. I had a good relationship with him from my alumni work. I explained in calm, professional terms that due to a permanent change in my personal circumstances, the private scholarship fund I had set up to cover Anna's tuition was being dissolved, effective immediately. The second call was to the managing partner at my firm. I had pulled a lot of strings to get Anna a coveted summer internship there. It was a career maker. I explained that a severe and irreconcilable personal conflict of interest had arisen, and the offer had to be rescinded. I took no joy in this, but my support for her was based on the foundation of our partnership. She had taken a sledgehammer to that foundation. She could no longer live in the house. Exactly 2 weeks after the dinner, she showed up at my door. I watched her on the security camera fumbling with her key, her confusion turning to anger when it didn't work. She finally rang the bell. I opened the door, leaving the security chain on. She looked awful. The righteous anger was gone, replaced by a weary desperation. The reality of living with a broke narcissistic artist had clearly been a harsh one. "Jack, we need to talk," she said. "No, Anna, we don't," I replied. "You made your choice. The conversation is over." "You can't just throw away 3 years over one fight," she pleaded, tears starting to form. I was angry. I wasn't thinking. "It wasn't a fight," I said. "It was a moment of truth. You were given a clear choice between your partner and the man who has been trying to destroy our relationship, and you chose him. You demanded that I apologize to him. You chose to defend the parasite. That's not something I can forget." The panic was starting to set in as she realized I wasn't budging. "But everything we planned," she stammered. "Law school, the internship?" "Yes, about that," I said, letting the silence stretch. "The tuition for your final semester is due next week, isn't it? I hope you and Leo have a plan for that because my investment in our future has been terminated." Her face went white. "What?" she whispered. "And the internship at my firm," I continued, relentlessly. "That offer has been rescinded. The firm takes conflicts of interest very seriously." She actually stumbled back, her hand flying to her mouth. The internship was her golden ticket. The future she had been so sure of was evaporating before her eyes. "You can't do that," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Jack, please, you can't." "I already have," I said. "Actions have consequences. You gave me an ultimatum. Apologize or we're over. I chose over. Now you get to live with the consequences. Go ask Leo for help, the man who is so much better than me. I'm sure his creative genius includes a plan to pay for your $50,000 tuition and replace the career you just lost." I closed the door on her tear-streaked face. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel sad. I just felt quiet. The trial was over. The aftermath was predictable. Anna's life fell apart. She had to drop out of law school just months from graduating. The dream was dead. She and Leo are apparently still living together in his tiny apartment. I've heard from friends that it's a special kind of hell. She's consumed by resentment for what he cost her, and he's stuck with a woman who is a constant, bitter reminder of his own inadequacy. He got the girl, but he got a broken version of her that he can't afford to fix. I didn't do this for revenge. I did it for myself. A relationship is a contract, and she violated the most fundamental clause: loyalty. My actions weren't a punishment. They were an enforcement of the terms. She wanted to know what done really means. Now she knows. It means the support stops, the investment ends, and the builder walks off the site, leaving you in the wreckage of the house you helped burn down.